So, like the rankings, like I still love thinking about rankings this way, but I couldn't do what you did. And do you think Penn State? So the rankings aren't out yet for this week because they're waiting. They're not going to come out till Tuesday because they're waiting for the Boston College Miami game on Monday night. Do you think anybody will actually vote Penn State? Sorry. Do you think anybody will actually vote Penn State, Boston College, Florida State? Anyone will actually vote Penn State number one? Do you think they will get a single number one vote in either the AP or the coaches?
I don't know. I don't think so. Yeah.
But don't you think they should?
Clearly, yeah, I do. If I were voting in the AP poll, I think I'd vote Penn State number one. I would vote Penn State number one. I put my top 11.5 together this way because I thought you would. I'm a little surprised that you haven't.
I know.
Because you can't like. So what I did was like, okay, did every team play a game that would shake up the rankings this way? No, but like kind of the handful that did, I gave them credit for it. So that's why my top four are the team that beat West Virginia on the road, the team that beat Texas A&M on the road, the team that destroyed Clemson in a neutral site game, and the team that destroyed Florida on the road. And then the rest of it just kind of fell into place with teams I probably would have had ranked there kind of no matter what the result was, as long as they won. So, I don't think anyone will vote Penn State number one. I'd imagine actually my guess is that Georgia is practically unanimous number one after this.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. And guess who else voted for Georgia? I'm
Doug
so
mentality.
embarrassed. Okay, Mike, show my rankings. Seriously. I can't wear this hat ironically anymore because I'm just in the bags for the dogs in such a big way. I have Georgia number one, Penn State number two, Notre Dame number three. So we have the same top three. I just love the dogs. Texas number four, Ohio State number five, Utah number six, Oklahoma number seven, Alabama number eight. Number 9, I have Kansas State. Number 10, I have Miami. Number 11, I have Tennessee. And the team that I hate myself for having 11.5 with my eye on them is Ole Miss because they scored 4,000 points. And I don't want to give somebody credit for scoring a bunch of points against a bad opponent, but I feel an overmatched opponent. Teams aren't bad. They just have to play these games to make money against an overmatched opponent. But there were enough other teams that did not do that to overmatched opponents, Landis, that I was on this show in the preseason. I sort of was down on Ole Miss. I was sort of like, what? Do I have to pay attention to Jackson Dart? And then their offense was like clearly very functional. I also think Lane Kiffin was like trying to make a point, but there were a lot of teams that I thought were going to come out and try to make a point in week one, Oregon and Washington among them. And a lot of teams didn't come close to making that kind of point. So I have to keep eyeballs on Ole Miss, and they're going to be in the top 10. I noticed you didn't rank them either. So you're also not keeping eyes on Ole Miss, right? You don't have them in your top 11, do you?
I didn't have them in my top 11. I think mostly because I don't think I would have had them top 10.
Yeah.
Just sort of like blank slate coming into the year. So I get what you're saying about, putting a beating on a team like that, but that to me doesn't pop you into the top 11. Because Utah did the same thing and Oklahoma did the same thing and Alabama did the same things. Right. So I don't have a problem with it. It's just like they were one of the teams that did that I left off.
So those are our rankings. I mean, it does tell you something about where we think. I did not rank Oregon and I did not rank Michigan. And I am very open to sliding people all over the place week to week, but I was much closer to ranking Michigan than I was to ranking Oregon. And it does seem like a statistical anomaly. There was just some weird stuff in the Idaho game where the yards were out of whack, but the score was close. And they're not the only team that sort of did that this week. I watched a couple other games in the North where I thought, man, you watch the game and you think, I thought that with Pitt. I thought that was Wisconsin to a degree. That's like, and then you look at the score and it's like, they're almost losing this game. But for Oregon to do that against the Idaho team when they were favored by 50, I don't think Oregon's a terrible team, but I would drop them for that performance until they show me something more. And they're going to have the chance to show something this week against Boise State, who we will wind up talking about later. But I think Oregon comes into week 2 like very much having to reassure everybody who picked Oregon to win the national title or anything, because it was just a really weird opener when you figured Dan Lanning was going to come out and stomp on people.
Yeah, I think if you were, and I'm not saying you did this, but I think your logic is sound. The final score like makes you raise an eyebrow. If you look at how the game played out, it's like Oregon turned the ball over on downs twice. I think they might have fumbled another time, kind of going in potentially to score. So, and then Idaho scored one of their touchdowns on a trick play. It's like statistically, Oregon dominated that game. It just should have ended up with probably 4 more touchdowns, and then we're not talking about it. But you got to finish drives, right? Finishing drives is important. And if you want to talk about Ole Miss looking crisp to start the year against an overmatched opponent, Oregon certainly didn't look that way. So I think it's fair to not have them in.